Welcome to the JD Power Travel and Hospitality Podcast. We're excited about this episode. I'm Andrea Stokes, practice lead for hospitality at JD Power. We have special guests with us today, Margaritaville Hotels and Resorts. I'd first like to introduce Dan Leonard, who is president of Margaritaville Hospitality. Dan, welcome.
Well, thanks for having us, Andrea. Pleased to be here today.
And also we have Amy Noland. She is the Senior Director of Reputation and Quality Assurance for Margaritaville. Thanks, Amy, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to you both. And I know we've talked ahead of this podcast about it's great that Margaritaville did win the JD Power Guest Satisfaction Award for 2023 in the upper upscale segment. So congratulations again to everyone at Margaritaville for the award. We want to talk about your efforts and all of the work that you do to both serve your guests and also serve your employees and engage your employees. We know that's obviously a very, very important part of the guest experience. So we'll start out, I think, Dan, with you. I'd like to ask you, can you talk about Margaritaville's journey from being, I think what everyone can remember as a restaurant company to hotels and resorts, and now even I think beyond hotels and resorts.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a fun story, Andrea. I think, but we probably should start off. I guess there wouldn't be really a company journey without a song, right? And we'll maybe start there back in 1977, and we'll quote Jimmy here, basically that he wrote a song in about 5 minutes on the 7 Mile Bridge down to Key West, and would have never envisioned where we are today. So that's kind of the lead off. Really how it all started was back in 1985. Jimmy was in Key West, and he noticed people were walking around the streets of Key West with T-shirts that had its name spelled wrong with only one T, Jimmy Buffet. And he thought to himself, hey, I can do that, and I can do it better. So that launched a retail store in Land's End's Village down in Key West back in 1985. Small grassroots store. And of course, as you can imagine, Andrea, everyone after that, well, if this is Margaritaville, where are the margaritas, where are the cheeseburgers? So in 1987, Jimmy and his partner, Kevin, opened up the first Margaritaville Cafe on Duval Street, which we're proud to say is still there. And a little shout out, still beating same store sales. And our little secret is they just add a bar stool every year and up go the sales. So it's kind of a fun story. So fast forward till about 1999 is when we opened up the first Margaritaville, or the second Margaritaville, Universal Studios in Orlando. And really, this was the opportunity to bring Margaritaville to the masses. We found out very quickly when we opened it up is that a lot more people wanted Margaritaville. So we grew the restaurant portfolio to about 20 restaurants by 2010, and mostly in the U.S., but in the Caribbean as well. In 2010, kind of serendipitous, Jimmy and Jimmy's partner, John Colan, our CEO, were on a drive from Mississippi down to Panama City Beach, Florida. We're opening a restaurant, and it stopped by a hotel that was being built and just about to open, by the way, under a different flag, as they heard of an entrepreneur who was interested in Margaritaville. So they stopped by, and, a friendship began. She jumped in the car and drove with them down to Panama City. And by the next morning, she called John back and said, hey, you know what? If you could brand this margarita or this hotel to Margaritaville in 3 months, we'll make it a Margaritaville hotel. So that is the beginning of our hotel resort journey. Then about 2015 is really where I would say is the tipping point. Our next resort was our Margaritaville resort in Hollywood Beach, Florida. just an unbelievable location. It sits between the Intercoastal and the Atlantic Ocean, about 370 rooms, 3 pools, a spa, just about every restaurant under our umbrella. And that really was the tipping point. You could experience Margaritaville in every way you could as a guest. It exceeded expectations from the guests, not only guests, but financially exceeded all expectations. So fast forward, here we are, 2024, over 40 lodging experiences from hotels, resorts, all inclusive, RV resorts, vacation ownership. We're in the 55 and better communities. We have 3 of those. We have 1 cruise ship, Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, about to open or launch another Margaritaville at Sea this summer. And you know what? We still stayed true to our roots, is we have 180 restaurant concepts, or outlets, I should say, throughout the U.S. So Andrew, that's kind of the Reader's Digest version. I mean, it was really all built around our brand promise of create and deliver fun and escapism. And internally, we candidly say our job is not to screw it up. It's not very often you catch lightning in a bottle, and as you can imagine, we take our guest experience, our team experience, very seriously. And I can say we're very proud to have ranked #1 on that JD Power Satisfaction Survey, first time we were eligible, and really want to take a moment to salute, our thousands of frontline team members who deliver on that expectation day in, day out, which is no easy task, and our success is on their success. So hopefully that kind of gives you the Reader's Digest there, Andrea.
Thanks, Dan. That's great, and such an interesting history, and in the grand scheme of things, really is fast, for really the hotels and resorts division to get going in 2010. And to grow as quickly as Margaritaville has grown is really exciting. And thinking about now, I'll go to you, Amy. Thinking about the brand promise that Dan mentioned about escapism, right, and kind of what Margaritaville's culture is all about. Amy, can you talk about how Margaritaville measures guest satisfaction, measures the guest experience, how Margaritaville makes sure that, your guest experience and guest feedback are used at the property level, right, by the staff, and, kind of used on a day-to-day basis to operationalize guest satisfaction improvement, making sure, that the culture is coming through to the guest, and, of course, that the guests are basically having a great time at your hotels.
Of course. Thank you. So Anchor is a reputation management and quality assurance program for our hospitality division. We launched this about 2 years ago now. And we really developed it because as we were quickly growing into many different business verticals, whether it was a front hotel, resort, ship, RV park, you name it, we wanted an easily identifiable program that helped focus our QA and guest experience objectives. And how do we make sure as we're quickly growing, we're delivering on that brand promise and delivering exceptional guest experience. So we rolled out Anchor, and Anchor stands for audits, NPS, closing the loop, health and safety compliance, OSAT, and reputation. So for us, this program, again, is implemented across all of our hospitality sectors, and it allows us to really keep a pulse on our property performance and guest experience across the board. We know the magic happens at the property level and the management companies, but at brand level, these are the pillars that are really critical to our continued success.
So Anchor, that's a great acronym. I think it's perfect for encompassing all that you do around quality assurance and reputation. It's a lot, I know, for I think properties and hotel staff to kind of keep on top of. How do you all make sure that it is operationalized at the property level, and that all the hotel staff really are kind of living it day to day?
Yeah. So, we're not doing anything groundbreaking, right? These are pretty standard in our industry, but we take it very seriously. This is a top priority across our organization, and it comes from the top down, all the way from our CEO. And as you know, if our executive team and leadership team is not bought into it, the buck stops. Your team will never buy into it. As Dan always says, they respect what you inspect. So this is something that's part of our everyday conversation, internally and externally, that we have with our team on the importance of this. But we also position the program as a value add to our partners. When we talk about quality assurance and reputation, it's not always the most fun, and people think of audits and checklists. I think I actually got booed one time during an introduction when I said I worked in quality assurance division. But we don't want it to come across that way. So audits, for example, when we do an audit, we send somebody from our team. Typically, it is our vice president of operations or somebody in the senior director level on the operations side, as well as the food and beverage side. And they walk with our property team for 2 days. They walk the property. So an audit's an audit. There's no two ways about it. But we make sure that the team feels supported and they have that one-on-one time with the brand to ask questions that they may not get to ask on an everyday level. And so we hope that gives value back to our partners, right? Because we all have the same end goal, and their success is our success. And the metrics that the N and O in Anchor, if you will, are the two metrics that we measure at a brand level: NPS and OSAT. Every year we set individual property goals, right? So we don't just set a blanket NPS and OSAT goals. We take a look at whether they have been branded hotel, are they a new build, what are their historical scores, because we want these goals to be achievable. We want them to feel motivated. And then this is something that we report out every single month. Every month we're reporting out these metrics. And again, it's part of the everyday conversation. I think Dan and our CEO, John, probably tell you a property's NPS score better than I could. Again, it comes from the top down.
That's great. And I think it's so important that, like you said, the goals are achievable, right? Measurable and achievable. And I think that I think the hotel industry really can learn a lot from Margaritaville in that way. I'll turn our conversation now to employees. And, obviously coming out of the pandemic, recruiting and retaining employees in the hotel industry has been a big challenge. I think, things are better now. I think, the general consensus is that it's maybe a little bit easier to hire new employees into the industry, or employees that have a long experience in the hospitality industry. And definitely we do see the rise in, leisure and hospitality jobs in sort of the jobs and labor reports that come out from the government every month. So how, and maybe Dan, this is to you, how is that going for Margaritaville in terms of coming out of the pandemic and being able to retain employees, and then maybe translate that to the role of employee engagement in recruitment and retention?
Sure. I should lead off, Andrea, that we're a branding and licensing group where we don't operate the hotels and resorts. So it is a little different for us, but how we add value is, as Amy mentioned earlier, is the culture. We're built on the culture. A lot of our leadership teams came from the ground up when we started at that Orlando restaurant. And as you know, there's no better way to build a brand than working on the front line. So we've all been there, done it. Amy's been with the brand, I think, 20 years. I've been 25. Amy started as a hostess. I started as a GM, but we never forgot, that the real magic happens, as Amy mentioned, on the front line. So what we do as the brand level is we want to make sure that culture remains strong. I should back it up a little bit. When we started this 25 years ago, we came up with a guiding principle, love your job, for instance. And where we got that from, for those who have ever been to a Jimmy Buffett concert, he ends every concert with a hearty, I love my job. And you really saw how he loved his job. So did the whole crowd. And we said, wow, if we could do that on a restaurant, hotel, resort, camp level, we can win. So we made it a guiding principle 25 years ago, and we measured it. And a lot of people would say, how could you ever ask employee satisfaction question, do you love your job? But we figured, you know what, if it's going to be a guiding principle, you better measure it. So we started measuring it back that. And proud to say, even after all this growth of the 40 some hotels and resorts, we've scored in the 90 percentile top box of our team members who love their job. And that truly is the win behind our sale. Our team's loving their job, our guests are having a great experience, and our owners are doing well financially. So it's kind of a simple formula that we've all heard before. So back to your question, how do we support our properties and resorts? I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, I think Amy found a platform that was really a training tool that would go out to all the different employees. And Amy and the team really reimagined it to be more of a culture tool. It's an app on your phone, volunteer, team members voluntarily join in. What's unique about it is it has features where team can just chat about different items, show pictures of their venues, gives us the opportunity to share new news. As you can imagine, 6,000 plus employees in a fast growing company, you're going to want to let them know what's going on, A, because it's part of the great story. Our guests are always asking, and B, it's a great sales tool if you think about it. So we can push out things like, hey, we just opened up in Naples, Florida as a Compass Hotel. We'll put pictures and send it out. The team can go on. The team can interact with each other. They can give each other's cheers pins. We send out swag with Life's Good on Our Boat, which is really what the platform's all about. And it really keeps the teams engaged. They become part of a family. And it's probably my favorite thing to read in the morning as I go up and you just see the pride with our team members all over the country, Caribbean, everywhere else, just talking about their venues, about their success stories. And it's really an incredible program that we put together. So that's really one of the ways we shout it out from the brand side. And it goes back to our leadership, our GMs. They carry the flag. They are the culture. And we spend a lot of time, as you can imagine, orientations and training to ensure they're set up for success as they go out to the field, because Dan and Amy and everybody else can sit, back at a home office somewhere, but we're not the ones on the ground level sharing the culture. So we spend a lot of time with training. We support all of our venues, our business segments with trainings and orientation in this app, this Margaritaville app that we put out there. So it's always top of mind, and really, like most companies that are successful, it's the culture that makes it successful.
Wow, that is great. And I really haven't come across this in the hospitality industry, this type of employee engagement app that employees, who are often far flung, right? If you're a global company with hotels, all over North America or the world, where employees can sort of interact with each other. It's great. I think, that really is a great tool to have. Amy, I'll turn it over to you. So, talking again about employees, can you give some examples of how Margaritaville employees are empowered to personalize the guest experience? So when a guest arrives at the property, they're obviously, engaging with the staff, either at the front desk or perhaps engaging with one of the housekeepers, or perhaps at a restaurant. How do employees, know perhaps when a guest is not having a good experience and sort of can be empowered to solve a problem or help a guest, or just how are employees empowered in general to make sure the guests are having that escapism experience?
Sure. So, a lot of that, happens at the property level and in our management companies. But from a brand perspective, again, we go back to culture, and that is what our priority and focus is for our team members. So going back to the app that Dan was referring to, this is something that we send out daily notifications to our team. And obviously, one side of it is to keep the team updated on things that are going on in the world of Margaritaville because it is so quickly moving. But there's the other side of it where we ask team members to share different experiences. Like, for example, tell us about a guest who had an amazing experience and or what did you do to turn around a guest day? And there's this Spark session, it's called, where they can go in and they can share those experiences. And the goal there is they can kind of feed off of one another, and they feel a little bit more motivated, and they see what their other team members are out there doing and how they have fun with the guests. I mean, when we say deliver fun and escapism, we mean it. When they're personalizing the guest experience and empowered to do those things, they know that they can have fun with the guest, and they really want to improve the guest experience. It's coming from a place of, this is my job, I love my job, these are the guests, and how can I make it a better experience for them? But I think from a brand level, kind of sharing back those experiences that the team members are doing at a property level, or highlighting great guest reviews. That's something else that we do with this app, is we share positive guest reviews at a property level weekly. I think that helps motivate the team to personalize and really deliver that fun and experience with every guest every time.
Wow, that's great. This has been great, Amy and Dan. I love your perspectives, and really, I think it's I think the industry can learn a lot from Margaritaville and what the company has achieved and what the company is doing. So, thank you so much for sharing all of this information. I think it's great, and of course, if you've ever been to a Margaritaville hotel, you probably as a guest have seen this in action. So we will wrap up our Travel and Hospitality podcast. Thank you again to Dan Leonard and Amy Noland of Margaritaville.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks, Andrea.
We will see you again next month in our next podcast. Thank you.